This month of August is our anniversary, so we are going to be bringing on a lot of interesting folks, including the CEO of FOL, Mr. Dennis Jar, and our political bulldog, Anthony C. is here, and they are going to be telling us about who we are. But specifically today, we are going to be discussing issues following the aftermath of the July 26th. And with me will be obviously my co-host, Michael Padmore and Jimmy Eastman. So let's look at July 26th and the aftermath. Those topics that are actually burning that we need to discuss after July 26th violence. Let's go with the first one here. We are talking about the president's or the condemnation of the July 26th violence. I mean, everybody have put up some condemnation, including the CDC. Are some of those condemnations genuine? We're gonna dive into that. Number two on our list is the president's response. Some folks are saying he waited too long. Some folks say that the president is a thoughtful man that likes to weigh things before he speaks. Or was it pressure from the international community? We're going to dive into that. The suspension of the police officers from those who were on site. The spokesman for the Liberian National Police, Mr. Carter, and the supervisor who was supervising the police officers, they were suspended. Now we'll see whether suspension is enough or justified. And we are going to be talking about Honorable Yeka Koluba's formation of the Special Opposition Protection Unit. Is this a flashback to the back then we said Lofa Defense Force, Granger Defense Force, Bassa Defense Force? Are we now coming back into the fragmentation of our security? So, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we are. Let's go around. Mr. CEO, well, we have the last one, which we are thinking should be a very hot topic. SOUP is actually planning for an encore of what happened July 26th, maybe not in the same brutal manner, but they are consistent with having the August 24th, which is our Flag Day, a planned protest. And they have announced it in advance, so no one can come and tell them that, listen, we are coming as well. So we all can bear witness today. They made this announcement in advance. Mr. CEO, welcome to Onpoint. This is our anniversary. We want to take our cap on to you. It was you who gave us 2 years ago. This month gave us the opportunity, Mr. Doe and myself, to launch this program. So we want to thank you and welcome to Onpoint.
Thank you very much. I'm proud of the work that you guys are doing at Onpoint. I like how you are debating the issues. And this is a no spin zone. Even though somebody tried to spin, we call him the master spinner, but I like there's always a blowback, when he tries to do that. And I'm not calling names here.
Mr. Padmore, before I come to you, let me go to the political bulldog here. Mr. Bulldog is Anthony C. I think when we were in the back room, somebody gave a parable. And the parable was there was a big feast. And when they went to the feast, the chief for the feast, the town chief said, the ugliest guy in the room should go and draw the water. And Baboon got up and said, why are you talking to me? So, Mr. C, obviously it's not you.
Bamboo said he didn't want to carry heavy bucket, but he said nobody call your name.
Exactly. I am not a spinner. Those who follow us here know that I don't spin. I provide analysis, sometimes weak, sometimes very meaningful and very insightful. That is what I do, in my role here as the guy who runs the political department here at Focus on Liberia. I want to say congratulations to the Onpoint crew for 2 years anniversary in this business of debating the issue, dissecting the issue, and analyzing the issue for people to see all the political sides despite the disagreement. I'm happy to be here. Let us talk politics today.
Thank you. Mr. Padmore, you're the ANC guy. You're the newest kid on the block. We want to thank you for hanging in here with us and making our show vibrant. This is our second anniversary. We have a lot of issues to discuss. What says D?
Well, thank you so much. Thank you guys for the show. Thank you for the insight into starting such a vibrant and provocative platform where everybody can feel comfortable in coming and stating their purpose and where they stand in the body politics of Liberia. So hats off to you guys. I'm just walking on your shoulders, and it looks really good from here where I sit.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eastman.
Gentlemen, it's been quite a privilege to join this distinguished panel and group. You guys are after the truth. That's what the first thing I observed. We're about the truth. We're not biased, and we want to dig deeper into matters that matter to the Liberian people. You can't go on any other platform and where the people don't have an agenda. Our agenda we're going to bring the pure news, the pure truth, and pure evaluation to you, despite where you come from. So it's an excellent platform to be on, and it's my honor. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. CEO, before I come to you, I want to remind our Liberian folks, we have the Zelle and our platform numbers, how you can contribute. Every time you turn your TV on, every time you turn your app on, Focus on Liberia is bringing something to you. It takes money to pay for the data, to turn the lights on, the equipment, all of these things. We are Liberians. We love good stuff, but sometimes we don't like to pay for it. So we are asking you to make a contribution, no matter how small it is, towards the operation of this particular platform. We have been here 2 years. Believe it or not, I'm in Florida. I don't know how those guys do it, but every time I come on, when I turn my app on, they are on. I don't know how they're doing it, but it makes sense that some of us will make a little contribution to make sure that this is a Liberian owned, and we should support our own. So we ask you to make a contribution. Mr. CEO, here is where we are. July 26th should have been an excellent day where the president had dignitaries, they had everything. And in fact, it was a day that President Weah should have been in seventh heaven when the ambassador of the United States in public says to the world that we have an invitation for President Weah to visit the United States, to visit Joe Biden. December 14th, 13th, 14th, and 15th. Huge news. So, like one of our friends was saying, there are some folks who are accustomed to snatching defeat from the jaw of victory. The news that should have been all over the world were snapped by 17 guys, 17 young folks, running around and making noise. And actually, they were not even near the pavilion. They were way on the other side. Somebody went and snatched victory, actually defeat out of the jaw of victory. So what do you see from your standpoint, because you speak to everybody, what do you see that it was the pitfall of the July 26th violence?
Right, and thank you, Mr. Gabeman. Every country had people that will always, oppose the government or say something because that's a political seat. Everybody wants it, so that seat is highly contested. So when you are in that seat, just expect that people are going to come at you because they want your seat, and that's understandable, right? So, and the CDC over time, or the CDC government has managed to kind of squash opposition, to kind of go against. And the strategy I believe they've been using is to infiltrate. You go among them, find somebody you can buy. So we saw that during the Thomas Fowler DeLong campaign, they were able to go into the COP, that's the Council of Patriots of Mr. Costa, and snatch away some guys. To use them, they probably bribed them. And after the elections were over and Mr. Fowler was defeated, those guys were crying all over the place that they were not taking care of, things that they were promised did not come through. So it appears to me that the CDC-led government has continued that strategy over time, and it was working for them until July 26th. As you said, this was supposed to be a celebratory movement for the president and his government. But instead, things that he has allowed over time, he decided to go chasing the rabbit hole, wherever these guys. So these guys were supposed to meet at the UL campus to assemble. So the group went there. This group known as CDC COP went there and say, and I saw their video. They say we are supervising the campus. So SOUP did not go on campus, but instead went directly to the U.S. Embassy, and they followed them to do that at what appears to be acquiescence of the government, because there was nothing done to put an end to it or to make sure that the violence did not occur. So I believe that Mr. President Weah and his government, they knew about this, and this was something that some higher ups in the government has sanctioned, because that has been the government mojo of counteracting things that they don't like. You either send a group instead of using a state or forces to put that under control. You decide to use another group so that it won't be seen. It's like throwing stone and hiding your hands. That's how it appears to me. So this thing happened, and it completely took away some of the things that the president was supposed to be celebrating. And we could see neither the police nor other actors like the city government saw it and did nothing about it. And that was a complete embarrassment that the government brought upon itself by being complacent with what was happening. And up to now, I still think to myself, I mean, why were young guys, even though they are not really young, somewhere like 37, 36 years old, why would they go and engage people in a violent way so as to score political points or benefits from some leftover from the people that sent them? That was very bad, and it really, really painted the government ugly, and I don't know how they're going to get out of this.
Mr. Shea, obviously there's a disclaimer here. Whatever we are saying here is our opinion. We have no facts, whether they are allegations. But from your vantage point, how do you see this July 26th violence?
The violence was unwarranted. The student did not provoke the government. Dennis did a very good job in explaining the history and how everything went down. A protest was announced by the student to register dissent, which is one of the things that if we are to enjoy any democracy, we must encourage. In the absence of dissenting opinions, there is no democracy, period. So if you want to be seen as a democratic government, you must have the stomach and the skin to accept or to allow dissent, especially when that dissent is not violence, when it is under the name peaceful protest. The CDC is afraid of protest, and the CDC has been very smart for being afraid of protest. Protest is one of the things that can make any government unpopular, especially an African government where the Westerners are saying democracy, you must practice it for us to do business with you. And if you are not practicing democracy, then you will be in bad books with the West. Liberia being, this government that will rely on Westerners, you want to make sure your democratic credentials are intact. And so to not have allowed dissenting opinion put the government in a terrible place, and it's not good for them. They funded the CDC COP more so because the government was against the idea of the COP protesting all the time. Like Dennis said, they don't want to use the security forces, so it cannot be seen as government is directly engaging its citizens that are protesting peacefully. So it organized its group that I want to consider talks because they've been engaging in violence. They have done everything in the name of the president, used his picture, they celebrated him, they promoted him every step of the way. And they even said that they were giving an instruction from their supreme leader. That's why the word they use, who is Jefferson Tamakoji. So this is a confidant of president. We are giving an instruction to this auxiliary group to go and stop a peaceful protest. Then it's right. The children were all the way at the U.S. Embassy. They were not near the Satinian Pavilion where the celebration was going on. So why chase them in a rabbit hole? And worst of all, they brutalized this young man to death. And the president have no word to utter. The police spokesman is saying, well, no one brought complaints, so we're not going to issue an arrest for the crime that's been committed on cameras. They did this in front of the U.S. Embassy. The Americans were looking at them. The very American whose invitation they want to celebrate, they are right in front of their cameras carrying on violence. How can you do this to yourself? So the government really dirty its own credential, if it had one, right? In terms of democratic credentials. So this was bad. This is a huge menace, and I just hope the opposition were together to take advantage of this, because they would flip the narrative in their favor, because the narrative has been against them. But sadly, they are not the kind of opposition you want to see in Liberia.
Mr. Padmore, the July 26th violence, if you want to be objective and look at all the different angles, this young man, this particular group of 27 guys, everybody knows them. I counted them, I know who they are. Some folks call them pay agents. We saw what they did in Single the other day, where they were burning tires, and they actually destroyed, vandalized, they broke somebody's windshield. The same guy they call Strongman Sisulu, who is not actually a student of University of Liberia, but a higher hand, broke windshield of a car, breaking people's car, destroying property in the name of soup. Now, that does not justify what happened, but a violent organization, as that group called themselves soup, were attacked violently by somebody else, another group. How do you look at it? Is it tit for tat? Is it an eye for an eye?
So here's the thing. There's no way to spin this. Okay. So first of all, I'll come from three perspectives. The first one is very simple. This was our Independence Day. We're celebrating a lengthy history. We're celebrating our democracy. And our democracy just doesn't come from the point of government. It also comes from the point of the freedom of people, the freedom to assemble, the freedom to address your government. All that is celebrated in our independence. And it's sad that the president, on that day that was celebrating all of that, people under his watch could not accept that part of our democracy. It was a blemish to our record. It was a blemish that foreign guests were in town. It could have gone by far worse than that. We thank God it didn't, because if those students had gone on a rampage, or citizens had gone on a rampage and started breaking things and doing, it would have been sad. Thank God it didn't happen to that, but it was a blemish on our stance as an independent nation. The second thing here is what you brought up. If there's a violent group in Liberia, doesn't matter from what point of view, the security forces have a constitutional obligation to protect life and property. If somebody's windshield was broken, why wasn't somebody prosecuted? There's no reason for it. Then you want to use that instance to say, well, if they did this, now why can't this group tit for tat? All you are doing is that you are creating chaos. And it will show when you have a chaotic situation, we will get to that point where citizens will feel like they have to take their own security into their hands. And that's what leads to that. But most importantly, when nothing happens until the president can say something, it shows that we are not building the institution as a country that we should have. Okay? So what some people celebrated as, the intervention of the president was actually a sad move. That he had to come out and speak and give public instruction before things could be done. Now, of course, with this happening, the international community is watching. Liberia has been invited, amongst other nations, to Washington, D.C. Between now and December, President Weir is on the pedestal. We're going to see, is he going to allow thugs under the mantle of the CDC to inflict violence? Will the invitation be withdrawn? Or even if you get to go to this occasion, is the topic going to be violence in Liberia, undemocratic practices in Liberia, or is it going to be how can we help Liberia move forward? So
Great.
we'll be watching, and we'll see what happens.
Great. Mr. Eastman, obviously I've been on the Hill. I've worked a lot with a lot of folks on the Hill. The American foreign policy is based on interest, okay? And no amount of call or protest can change what the United States interest is all about. In 1988, the former President George H.W. Bush made made a speech, and he said that the U.S. was about to do what we call a new world order. And that new world order had been exacerbated by the war in Ukraine. Based on that, we've seen all the presidents, well, most of the presidents, I think there were 26 from the U.S. Liberia, one of those that was selected to be a country with the Feed the Future program. That is, they are removing the breadbasket from the Ukraine now to Africa. So it's very, very critical. America's interest is now Africa and West Africa in particular. We love this. Now here we are with the violence. What does this do? We know that it will not impact the invitation. That's for sure. I know that for a fact. Mr. Jimmy Eastman, your take.
Okay, thanks for that question. Just like you said, politics is about interest. But here I like to mention an administration is tested by crisis. There are going to be situations where the administration will have to take some crucial decisions. Now, I appreciate the late reaction of the administration. And I say it late because there should have been a preemptive move. But the response now to suspend certain police supervisors, to address the terrible acts that go on, I think that is a movement in the right direction. But here, one has to realize that this is a sensitive issue. And if you don't take these minor issues seriously, they become major issues. We have seen this sort of thing play out in the Samuel Kanyando era. We saw it play out in Tolbert. They took the April 14th to be common, but next year we saw them overthrow. We saw Samuel Kanyando raid the university campus, do all other kind of things to squelch protests. But we saw what happened to him in the end in 1990. Similar with Taylor. You have to know how to address protests. There will be dissent, but your ability to be sensitive to the people and to take the proper corrective action makes all the difference in the world. We're not going to, this is just the beginning. As you know, there's going to be another test. So the government needs to provide the security for the First Amendment, which is the freedom of speech. We have to provide the protection for all our people, and we have to learn how to address dissent without violence. And this is the true test. So it's a late reaction, but it's a better reaction than doing nothing. As we pointed out last week, we didn't hear anything, but on Monday, we did hear a reaction from the president. I think the officers got to be more focused and learn how to preempt these things and address it properly. But it is a good step in the right direction.
Thank you, CEO. Since Mr. Eastman had talked about the suspension, so let's go to the suspension here. Okay, we are talking about the suspension of the spokesperson, suspension of the supervisor, suspension of police within the vicinity that were giggling to some degree making light of the threatening situation was happening. What is your take on the suspension? Are these suspensions genuine or the cosmetic? I mean, this is our view. What's your take on the suspension?
Shameful. The suspension, shameful. Look, the reason they gave, first of all, this happened after the president spoke. All right. This took place, and we were calling on people who were screaming. In fact, my personal Facebook page, I changed that to the picture of Christopher Walter Civilli. Even though you said that he's not a student, I don't know what you're getting that information from, but as far as I know, he is a student of the University of Liberia. And you also said, things that I've heard around Facebook or social media that SUB is a violent organization. In fact, they have been burning tires. They've been doing X, Y, Z. To me, all these are irrelevant, looking at the violence that we saw on camera. So, let us not kind of engage in those kind of tactics and join other people that are standing around on the fence and then screaming, oh, yeah, they are right. They should beat them up because they themselves are violent. But what they're saying, number one, Moses Carter, the police spokesman, he's speaking for the police. He made a statement that, and let's be clear, we did not hear that it was for this specific reason, but we assume it because he said it, that because we have had no complaints, so we didn't make any arrest. The director of police heard that. It took 5 or more days after the president spoke, before he said, I'm suspending you. So that's shameful. 2, we saw a guy on camera. On camera, what we saw was he was alone. And people said, because the reporter who was filming that said he smiled, he's laughing. Okay? I mean, I don't know what we can glean from that video alone, that the man was laughing. Either he was in support of it or whatever he was laughing at. I mean, that is not a police that will go after the facts, that will investigate, would not tell me, okay, this man laughed, so we're going to suspend him. And then the other guy, they say he did not offer supervision, so they are suspending him. So, I mean, all these things happen, and all these people are under one person, and that's the police director, or they call them inspector general these days. So I would think if anything serious should be done, that act should fall on the police director or the inspector of police, and not someone who people saw say was smiling, or somebody who went and tried to, public relations officers are not. So he says something. Who knows? Maybe the police director told him, or we don't know where he got that from. But you can't use that for suspension. People were also calling for the justice minister. They were calling for him to be suspended. So these things should, and then fingers are being pointed to Major Jefferson Tambakoji. And let me add, I just heard that there's another name in his name called Wisdom. Jefferson Wisdom Tambakoji. That he's the one behind this. He's the one being referred to as supreme leader, and they are taking orders from him. Nothing is done to him. Nothing is done to the justice minister. Nothing is done to the police director, and you pick some unknown police officer and say we suspend them. That's shameful. They're picking the very lowest fruit. This is window dressing, and we need something more substantial and more that is more serious than that.
You are muted.
Mr. Shea, here we are, everybody are crying that we should do something, they should do it. And we are a nation of law. We say Liberia should be a place of law and order. And there are policy and procedure in every department you go. And leaders do not take actions at the whims and will and pleasure of anybody. So for you as a professional person, I am on your platform. If I committed or somebody reported to you that, listen, the leader or the guy who is on point, he's provocative or he's derogatory, I think, wouldn't you make your own judgment by investigating and coming out to a conclusion? Or you just going to say, you know what, we're going to shut down Onpoint, and then later on we are going to find out if this is true. So wouldn't it be prudent for the police to delve into the actual cause who are the culprit before you come to apprehending everybody, suspending and firing?
Jerome, that is an option any institution or the one leading the institution can decide to take. And sometimes it depends on the gravity of the matter we're talking about here. We're talking about a crime being committed right before the naked eyes of the world that paints our country ugly. A crime has been committed, Jerome. This is not allegation. We're looking at this thing, everybody's seeing the crime being committed. And those who committed the crime, they were seen as the police headquarters. They said they're going with their lawyers, elegantly dressed and taking pictures right before the police headquarters. This is what we're talking about here, Jerome. So it is completely different, my brother. You said something earlier that protests cannot change policy. Oh, how I couldn't disagree more. Do you know why President Weah even spoke? It's because of protest. Condemnation is a form of protest. The whole world condemned this violence. Why the president was quiet? Why the police director was quiet? Why the justice minister was quiet? You, me, Liberians, foreign nationals, we saw the embassies near Monrovia release a joint letter condemning this violence. In that situation, when the image of the country is at stake, in a known violence, and you're telling me I'm going to call the policeman because he was smiling and find out why he was smiling, I will arrest the perpetrator of the crime, then we can go into the investigation. That is what we are talking about here. Arrest the perpetrators who we saw on camera, then we can go into the investigation. When the investigation is conducted, then you can fire people. But there was no investigation in any shape and form. They just invited these guys to talk to them because they knew who sent them. The government sent these guys, so the government could not have been the one and go arrest the guys they sent because they will be betraying them. They said they got the order from their boss, Jefferson Tamakoji. This very Jefferson Tamakoji condemned the justice minister of Liberia and belittled him. This is a true story. And nothing was done to him. The justice minister is the only person who can disagree with the president of Liberia. Jefferson Koji belittled the justice minister. Nothing happened. This is the character we're talking about here. So I understand this is when you want to see a leader come in, and show leadership, but unfortunately, we did not get that. And the letter that came from the ambassadors of the international community, they talk about the instigators. Who instigated this thing? The government instigated this thing. Koji and all of it. And then they said it right. This is shameful. The police director job is safe. The justice minister job is safe. You grabbing the low-hanging fruit and you think this is serious. They don't even understand the magnitude of this image that we saw on video, Jerome. They don't understand it. This is enough for the U.S. government to make a decision. I know, President, we're not inviting you. And if Liberians were the kind of people that I want to see, if we have protested or decide to protest to tell the U.S. government to disinvite President Weah, it can happen. It's just that we don't have it enough, sadly. Protest changed America. Today we have what they call the Affordable Health Care. That protest got Donald Trump out of power today. So protest changes everything politically. Protest changes government. Protest changes leaders. It changes everything. So I disagree with that.
Great. Mr. Padmore, we practice the same justice system of the United States that you are innocent until proven guilty. We know this. And second to that, we have the letter here that I'm looking at. The letter is saying that the justice system in Liberia should address both sides of this argument. The instigators, which the government think are the soup folks, and the perpetrators, we are the COP, CDC COP. So here we are. We are saying the letter was very direct to us. We are looking at it as we said soup is the instigator here. So we need to arrest some of those guys that were throwing rocks, and then we need to arrest those guys who actually went and perpetrated and reacted to the violence that Soup were perpetrating on the nation. And they had to meet violence with violence because Soup is a violent organization where actually 27 of those guys are. They are the perpetrator. The international community said we should deal with Soup. and then deal with the COP. How do you split this baby?
You are muted, Michael.
That is exactly what it is. I'm glad.
Michael, will you not call this man a spinner? Sorry for interrupting. He just spin the whole thing in his government's favor.
He's trying really hard. There's the thing. I actually use that particular phrase. Right after sympathizers of this government try to identify instigators and perpetrators as two different sides. When it is logical that the instigator and the perpetrator can all come from one side. And anybody from an objective point of view will see the instigator and the perpetrators from one side. But it seems as this government is embracing the notion that we'll cut the baby in half. Okay? And look, the letter from the international community basically is it's like somebody has given you a baton and say, here, you need to correct something. Now you have an option. You can use that baton, right, to correct the wrong that has been done, or you can use that baton to hit yourself over the head. Okay? And it seems that this government is intentionally, it's like their intention is to hit themselves over the head. Okay? Look, there is a pattern established. Jefferson Koji is on record displaying to the world, this is going to be our plan. This is going to be our modus operandi. Anybody who announced protests will announce a similar protest on that day, will go and meet them in flesh and blood. We've seen it. Soup has been attacked on the UL campus by Jefferson Koji and people representing Jefferson Koji numerous times. We've seen this. And now, with the one time they decided we're not going to fall into this, instead, we'll go somewhere else. And you know, it's smart about the guy. They said we'll go where all the camera is. This was a trap. And it's like the Jeff fell right into the guys in trap. They will go in front of the whole international community and we'll display for them, because if we do it every campus, nobody will see it. All the other times we've been attacked on every campus, nobody really see it. So we'll go in front of all the cameras. And you guys, and it's like these guys could now withhold themselves. Okay? But in all seriousness, it is saddening. When I look at the age of Jefferson Koji and the kind of personality he's developing for himself in the eyes of the international community, it is sad. It is sad. You know, because the world is watching him. You know, the world is watching him, and unfortunately, the world is seeing somebody that they're not very happy with. You know, and you're muted. And
Mr. Eastman.
Yes. Like I said, go ahead.
1 minute. This violent group that keep attacking people in Monrovia called SOUP. This very violent group that is actually paid agent with them. There you go. You see them piling rocks? These guys are piling rocks. They are shooting. They're using that projectile, deadly weapons. You see them? You see the SOUP people? They got the rocks in their hand. You see them? So these are the folks.
How you know that? They are people? How you know these people with the rock are SOUP people?
We know them. We know them. You see them in red?
You're going to see the people they are chasing. This is a CDC COP guy.
You see, at this point, they all mixed in. You can't tell who, but the guys who had the rocks, they were the COP guys. They were attacking state people. They were attacking innocent people. You see, and then not only are these guys are chasing them, but they are shooting back. They are throwing rock back, and these guys, you will see them retreat, and they go back. You see, we talk about Sisulu was the general. And when you are a general in war, sometimes you get captured. This is what happened to Sisulu here. But anyway, Mr. Eastman, before we go to our next one, let's talk about when you were on the university campus. I don't know which one of us here went to the University of Liberia, but is this how you were taught to protest, to ask the government for redress. Is this how you do it?
Very good question. I was on the university campus when the 1980 coup d'etat happened, and prior to that, I was privy to some meetings, and I was right in there where we heard chants of imperialism, Abba, and all kinds of chants to bring down the imperialistic forces. But as much as the protests were very vocal and militant, there were no cases of violence in the streets or civil unrest in the streets conducted by SOUP. But we fast forward 2022, we are people coming from war. We are not afraid of war. We've been through it. And I want to re-emphasize this. Nobody should test the Liberian people resolve. They have been there before. They are not afraid, but they will choose to do another route. The handling of political protest, has to be done in a proper manner. It cannot be done forcibly. We have, I cited before all the different examples where people try to force Liberian peoples not to be able to express themselves. So this will lie flat on the president's footstep. He has to have his lieutenants conduct themselves in the proper manner. Anyone who is actually trying to squelch protests violently like that, they're not his friend. They're not doing him a favor. They're bringing him ill repute. They're bringing him up unpopularity. They're giving him the opposition stronger stance now because of these actions. You have to guarantee political expression. It should not be met with violence. And if you don't do that, you got to learn how to handle it. His predecessor handled SOUP pretty well. SOUP was all over the place. CDC were all over the place. But you have to learn how to handle these things, or it will culminate into something completely different. So again, a little has been done with the arrest, but there has to be a sharp, strong reaction by the government about this sort of thing to put it in place, and the administrator has to guarantee political expression. If you have to have accompany those people with the police and even military, you accompany them, let them be able to express themselves without violence. You have to keep the two groups apart, because at the end of the day, this is a test of your ability to control the country, to manage the country. And it cannot be done by force and violence. That's not the way it's going to work.
Great. We are on time here. We're going to do this, and then we want to go to our comment and then take some calls and call it for the day. But CEO, here we are talking about the freedom of speech. It is enshrined in our Constitution. We have to protect that. SOUP have threatened, or not threatened, I won't use the word threatened, but they have given us notice. They have put the public on notice that they will like to continue this on our Flag Day, August 24th. I would like to disagree with Mr. Eastman when he said the previous government dealt with protests amicably or better. We all understand what happened to CDC on their compounds. Some people got killed and all of that. So we know it's a different issue. But CEO, we are talking about August 24th. The young folks or the SOUP, I for one support the SOUP. If it's not only the 27 guys now that one is in the hospital, now the 26, I think SOUP has, I think they say about 200 or 300 the membership at the University of Liberia, or 500 or so. Why aren't we seeing the 500? We're seeing the 27 folks at all time. And what should the government do to prevent this come August 24th? That's 3 weeks from now.
I still see you kind of those dog whistles He said there were 27 now. One guy is in the hospital. Are you taunting Comrade Sicily? But no. But I don't know if you say they should prevent. Anthony said it right. Protesting or coming out to say, Mr. President, we disagree with you, and this is what we are doing. We don't like what is going on. I think the government should encourage that. There's nothing wrong with Soup coming out or anybody coming out to say, at this time, we're going to go out and protest peacefully. We're going to assemble. That right is guaranteed under our constitution. So let them do it. Okay? We always hear where your right ends, another person's right begins from there. So in the exercise of their right to protest, to disagree, to voice out their distaste, they shouldn't infringe on the rights of others. Now, you continue to say they were violent, they are throwing rocks, they are smashing cars. If they are doing that, that is wrong. That shouldn't be encouraged. But to peacefully assemble, they should do it. We should see more of that. Okay? We should see people disagreeing. Let the president, the government now is carrying a hammer. And so everything appears to them has a nail. Every protest should be met with this same violent protest. And Mr. Koji was on camera saying, hey, we're not going to not because we are city mayor now, we are wearing the suit, so we shouldn't do these things. No, we're going to still go back to the tactics we did before. You can't continue to do that. You should negotiate. You should just do the right thing. Okay, do the right thing. The government might have succeeded in disintegrating CPP, and that really work has charm. We saw CPP going, they literally live at the Temple of Justice, and now CPP has disintegrated. Kudos to Mr. Cummings trying to put it back together, but I don't know if that Humpty Dumpty can be put back together again. But the CDC government should not continue to use that same strategy. And this time, Soup, very small, college kids, could be the actually heels. My cousin told me, he said that little grain of sand that get in your sack and you don't take it out will be the one to embarrass you when you are in public. So they should deal with Soup in such a way. The president went on campus. A lot of us disagree with that free tuition without planning anything, but he got the student support because of that. There are some students that say, hey, I was not in school, now I'm in school. I think he should do something like that. But to say you're going to be like Samuel Canyon Do, by the time you see kids gathering, you are just panicking, you are all over the place, you are going over radio, making speeches, and all that, shouldn't do it. Now, the president, I know we didn't talk about that, or Jimmy mentioned it, the president response. The president response came very late to say after investigating, that's not his place. He was mandating people to do their job. You shouldn't be doing that because that's interference. What if he was mandating the other way around to say do not arrest? Would they not? Okay. And in that same 5-minute speech, he talked about his trip to the United States. So many saw it that, okay, this is what is prompting the president to say this, because there was no connection talking about his trip to the US and condemning student protests. But he wanted to link the two because this is what is bringing him up. He doesn't want to be uninvited to the program, so he had to kind of mention it. So these are all things that tell us that maybe this did not come out, from the president's own volition. But if Soup want to demonstrate on August 24, please allow them to do so. You have no right to stop them. These are college students. They are things that they need. Engage them. Ask them what they want. President Sirleaf, you said they dealt with this differently. We saw on video where she met with them. They were talking. In fact, the person who represented the student body, as I learned, was not even a student. But they had audience with them so that they could see what they want. But every time you hear protests, you want to go and fight or you want to organize some people. I feel sorry for those young people. You are in your 20s and early 30s, and this is how you want to conduct your life. You want to publicly be beating people. What if CDC government is out of power? What are you going to do? How are you going to face your own friends like Christopher, like the other university students? What are you going to do? You are not even working to say, well, I have some savings. I'm going to save this money and do X, Y, Z after. You are not even in school. So how do you intend? You are still in your late 20s and early 30s. how do you intend to live your life after the Weah government is gone? We have seen government come and go. For those of us who grew up during the Doe era, we thought it was going to be there forever. It didn't happen. So I think the president, the government should change tactics. I think these guys who, because of the harsh economic conditions, will respond to anything because of peanuts. This idea that people are going to give you little money and you're going to do whatever they want. On both sides, even opposition leaders are doing the same thing to these kids. And this is wrong. We should educate and we should set good examples for the young people to follow instead of making them our attack dogs. This is not the kind of liberal we want to build, and this is not the kind of country we want to leave for our children and our children's children.
Thank you very much. Mr. Shea, this is a good segue into this particular topic that I really want us to discuss. We are seeing the emergence of fiefdom. Group of guys getting together, they like animals. They kind of take their side or come and kind of spill urine and say we identified our spot, we're marking our territory, and we got control over this. Now we have this thing called Yeke Koluba called the Opposition Protection Unit. What are you saying? Some, hopefully, those who like to cry that the sky is falling, instead of maybe dissecting this and actually delving into how to deal with it, they are seeing it as though Yeked is now preparing for war, and some folks are, have different interpretation. Is there's a space in our politics for something of this nature?
Thank you, Mr. Gilman. Very good question. Before I can get to that, at the time we were playing the video, you insinuated, not insinuated, you said clearly that those with rags in their hand chasing the other group were the soup guys. Mr. Gilman, that is not true. You enjoy your democratic right as a citizen to support a government or any political group, but we should stick to the facts and say the truth. All right. These are the thugs that were hired by your government to chase the student. Yeah, they are beating the student right there. And you said that the student beating one on their own. That is not true. I was shocked when you said that, and I just wanted to correct that. Let's stick to the facts. The other thing before I can come to the question is the government said they are protecting the peace. When the children launch their protest or announce their protest that the protest is fix the country, the government came with a counter. We are facing the country. And so
Mr. C, look at this case who is holding Christopher Cecili's pens.
Yes.
Why?
These are not Sioux guys. The Sioux guys predominantly they are in their khaki.
Yeah, but you are showing the end of the video though. You're not showing the very beginning where they were piling up the rock and shooting the rock. You didn't show that. You showed the end here. Okay?
Yeah,
this is like the middle. We're talking about when Soup was there, but we didn't bring these rocks. These are all rocks brought on by COP. I mean, not COP, but ANC paid agents. That's also of them over there.
You are trying very hard, and I understand that. So the point I was making was that the government says it's trying to protect the peace. How do you protect the peace? Do you protect the peace by calling people to the table to negotiate with them and express to them the importance of the peace, or do you take matters into your own hands as government to brutalize people? Is that how you protect the peace? I will leave it there and come to your question. The Opposition Protection Unit, all right, OPU, put together by Yeke Koluba. We are having this today, sadly, because of the government's failure to guarantee the security of citizens that this government was elected to do. The experts tell us that for the government to provide security for its citizens is a duty. It is not a favor. President Weah is a sedition, but it is a job to protect every Liberian. He's not doing them a favor. When you negate that responsibility, what do you want others to do? Yaka Koluba, I disagree with the way he talks, the way he conducts himself as a public official. But the fact is that the CDC government has harassed this guy to the point that he's like trying in a self-defense mode. Now, when Mo Ali wrote a Facebook post, he was invited to the police headquarters. When Menipaka Dume wrote a post talking about AK-47, he was arrested and put behind bars. But these are people that flog somebody and brutalize, and the person is hospitalized and can't even speak. They are not being arrested. And the government is sitting right there. So the president said, like, look, because their security thing is like they find your own CCTV camera. So Yaka is saying, well, if the government cannot guarantee our security, I'll put my group together to protect the opposition folks and our political leaders. If the government was up to the task of providing security for the citizens, if the citizens were sure that their security is guaranteed, I don't think Yaka Koluba will be in a position of putting together a so-called opposition or protection unit. This is almost like going back to the war days. Lofa Defense Force, Crew Defense Force, the other defense force. We can't go back to that. But that is when the government of the day has become a total collapse in terms of providing security. People will have to provide security for themselves. This is self-defense now that has been activated, but it is dangerous for our democracy because the very CDC COP can attack these guys. It might start with stone. It might go to looting people's property. It might scare citizens away. The country will become chaotic. How will the CDC be able to enjoy its 12 years? I don't hear that again. Or is the one round still loading? So to end on this note, Mr. Gibbon, this is so because the government has failed to provide security. If the government was doing its utmost best, if the police were not partisan police, they only arrest people who are in the opposition and they don't arrest folks who support the government when they commit a crime. They don't do that. And also when there's a protest, they go and arrest the protesters. Well, we have seen a sitting government protesting using these people. Have you not seen that? Are you not aware that our government has protested? There will not be any police at any of their gathering. There will be no violence whatsoever because the opposition will not go there to engage them. It was the government talks that went to the U.S. Embassy. Mind you, though, the U.S. Embassy there is the land of the United States of America, diplomatically speaking. The U.S. Embassy to America. So if the U.S. government wanted to be very, very tough on the we are government, they say, hey, this is an attack on the U.S. government. For you to come to our embassy and attack people, it's an attack on the U.S. government. If they wanted to do so, they can do that and nail the we are government. But, I think they're being a little sympathetic, probably because the president is a weakling politically, so they say they're cutting loose. Maybe they're finding a way to nail him.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. We're going to the next segment of our show. Real briefly, let me recognize a few folks here. Abraham Fofana, thank you very much. Diana Zion, thank you very much. Mr. Peter Trent, thank you very much. Mohammed Kabat, thank you very much. Tados Carr, Facebook user, Deacon Balian, and Tados Carr. Let me see who we got here. Abel Wynn, Mr. Roti Tabasi, we got Derek Poor, Vivian Willard, we got Wilwu Lucky, Elvis Morris, Dr. Pajibo, Hemi Famule, we got Silva Soma, and the list goes on. We got Mr. Noplu, Leo Lakule Noplu. Okay, I think he's one of our colleagues here. Famula Egizian. The list go on. We thank you very much. Without you, this show wouldn't be possible. Thank you for supporting Focus on Liberia and Onpoint in particular. So we want to thank you. But let's go to the comments after the comment, or do you want to do calls first? You can call in and leave your comments, or you can call in and make yourself known. I think the number to call there would be 605-313-6004, and the code is 79143. Call in and join the conversation, but without a call, let's go to the comments here. Mr. ANC, I know you are bashing. Did you read the comments? Let's go.
Sure. Okay. Yes. Edison Pajibo says, good evening, my colleagues. I'm watching from the Ivory Coast. Thanks to all panelists and hosts. Mohammed Salih Dukle says, seriously, the FOL group is great. Little financial contribution wouldn't hurt. Togbasi, Christopher Roti Togbasi, violence on either side should be discouraged. Togbasi again says, blame us of the president without the facts, without all of the evidence and facts. Alexander B. Cummings, Vice President Joseph Boykai, and Benani W. Ure has deliberately, intentionally, and willfully blamed the president, George M. Weah, for the riot on July 6 in Monrovia. Sad. Edison Pajibo again says, I do not support the action of the COP, but equally, the speech delivered by the leader of SOUP indicating what will happen to Weah is also counterproductive. Liberia needs peace, and various youth groups should imbibe this. There's Willie Hine. He says, Mr. Jai, where's the source or evidence of Mr. Gaiman? Why Gaiman is joining children to provide wrong information? Let him do his research thoroughly. Willie Hine again says, those who are supporting the president are a shameless group. This administration will end, but the records remain. And we have Flomo Livingstone says, Mr. Gaiman can lie. The victim is a student of the University of Liberia. Wisdom King Jr. is also confirming that the gentleman is a student of the University of Liberia. Elvis Morris, watching on the YouTube here, says, ha ha ha, there's no crime in being elegantly dressed. Just ask Mr. Jai, he's always elegantly dressed. Hats off to you there, Mr. Jai. Edison Pajibo says, one can criticize a president in a democracy, but not to threaten him with death as done by the leader of SOUP. But more grievous is the visible inaction of the government. And William L. Jaggs II says, where is your proof that Jefferson sent all the government those people? Elvis Morris here says, there is the cabinet and the kitchen cabinet, and the mayor is a part of the kitchen cabinet. So he's in the theory more powerful, he's in theory more powerful than Musa Dean. Michael here says, this host is not a serious person. Your information you're giving to the public is misleading. You need to stop this.
You're talking to you.
Tien Festa Zeal said, Jerome lied to Ned. SOUP never carry rocks at the embassy. All right, and Leo Lekbale Nupolu Johnson from Canada says, we should all be ashamed of ourselves for supporting political parties and leaders that are turning our young people into extremists through militancy. Vivian Willard says, President Weah is to be blamed for this confusion in our justice system. If President Weah had established enforcement of the laws of the land from the very beginning, we will not be here today confused about who is guilty of or not. President Weah made his bed, now he must lay in it. And Doric Poor says, SOUP wasn't violent at all, but let's say they were. Is it the CDC COP or the police job to stop them? And Fix Electronics says, please educate me. Was SOUP that group that beat up a sitting dean? Francis John Way says, good evening. I'm watching from Vonjama City, Lofa County. Thank you, Francis.
Well, I think, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just about to show you something, talking about militancy that our colleague here, Leo, just spoke about. This is a sitting government that controls the police, the military, and all other security apparatuses, including the intelligence arm of the government. They put their own people together. CDC militant. I mean, come on. This is the best you can do for your citizen, with so much potential to contribute to the country. and you made them militant, you think that is something good you're doing for them? I mean, I agree with Leo. Leo myself are in agreement here. Supporting the political parties and their leaders who are turning our youth into extremists and militants, it's just shameful. Most of these young people should quit, supporting the politicians, because I don't know what they get, other than using them, as their rope to get to power and dumping nearly all of them except for few. I mean, what do they get? Where are we taking the country? A certain government is forming a CDC militant. Mr. Gilman, you clean that one up because that is your job. I can't help you with that one.
Let me.
No, we got callers on the line. This one said, "Where is Tule? Since Lova fell to the CDC, my brother run away." This is not true. I spoke with Mr. Tule, and he has been having some scheduling conflicts.
I think I agree. I think I agree with that viewer, Dennis.
Yeah, I'm outside with that viewer.
You have a caller?
Yeah, we have callers on the line.
Okay, let's go it. Caller, your name and where you calling us from?
Caller, go ahead. Your name and where you calling us from?
Hey, Dennis, how you guys doing? Thank you so much, man. This is Dwalu. My point is directly to Mr. Gayman. Mr. Gayman, thank you so much for the show today, as always. But Mr. Gayman, you're an educated man. The word instigator, if you have time, I want you to look it up. It talks about the architects, the designers, the people that support the insurrection. The Sioux boys went to the U.S. Embassy. The CDC thugs and hooligans have absolutely no reason to go up there. They contributed to the instigation. But let me tell you who the true instigators are. It's President Weah. When President Weah stood at the top of the market and said, anybody who claims insults him, something that is perfectly legal in the country. I wouldn't condone anybody insulting the president, but it's not a crime. That person will not walk free in the streets of Monrovia. He's encouraging violence in the country. When Jefferson Coachee stands on camera and tells the country that if anybody tries it, their sweat and blood, they will confront them wherever they go. Wherever they go, he's going to protect what he perceives as his democracy. Let's be real about the security of our state. The Sioux boys were wronged heavily, and the government is doing absolutely nothing about it. Mr. Gilman, it shames me for people like you to stand there and think there's someone in the sin. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you. Let's take our next caller here. Caller, your name and where you calling from?
This is Elvis Morris, number one supporter on the platform.
Thank you, Elvis.
Quickly, let me just say this, Mr. Gilman. The way you carry yourself today, like the general, maybe they will catch you out and catch the Susuni guy too. But seriously, let me get to the point. I blame the war. I blame the war in this whole thing. The war has traumatized us so much that we all think we're militants, and the only way to get our point across is about being forceful. And the reality is, there's equal force. What I'm saying is to every force, there's equal force to react or something that it's slipping my mind right now.
Yeah.
But when these guys come on the stage and say that they are COP militant, you also have another force on the other side that will call itself CDC militant. And the army our army now is a ceremonious army, so those guys know that if they will be moved from power forcefully, it will be by people like Soup rising up and storming them out of office. So they're trying to barricade themselves by putting thugs and other people who are CDC people or even former criminals to protect them, because they know the police can protect them. The army will get 2,000 men, a ceremonious army that went to Arago to go do ceremony today. That just ceremony they're there for, so that they can protect them. So, Mr. Gilman, I would just tell you this. I respect you on this platform, but I think sometimes we've got to be serious. You can't make fun of the guy who almost lost his life. He got stabbed. He got beat up really terribly. We got to show some empathy and sympathy for him. I would just say that. And then to Mr. Tule, I don't know when he's coming back, but I'm a favorite man on this show because one of the men I see on the platform who can throw stone and hire him. When somebody throws stone, I ain't start crying. But thank you so much again for taking my call. I appreciate it.
Tule is not here, so start gossiping about him.
And he's listening. He will come back at you.
Okay, another caller. Your name and where you calling from?
Hello, this is Mr. Brooks, Houston Brooks, calling from Honolulu, Hawaii.
Welcome, Houston. Your question or comment?
Well, let me join the other callers and take a shot at my dear brother, Mr. Gaiman. Mr. Gaiman, so despite everything that was discussed on the show, he is still concerned about how the protest plan for August 24th can be prevented. You see, it seems like he has not yet received the knowledge that protest and counter-protest are part of the democracy playground, and they both need to be protected. But I'll leave it at that. On the question of militancy, like the last caller mentioned, there's something that never happened to Liberia after the war. Part of reconstruction of a country post-war is the mental rehabilitation of the masses from the traumas of war. So our society, we never really benefit from that, because that is supposed to be like a part of program that brings in international partners, that bring in scholarships and counseling. These are things that Liberia will just have to cope with for years to come. These militancy forming here and there, the militancy crowd, the cry of war, this is part of the mental trauma that the country has never recovered from the war. So that's just my 2 cents, and I'm going to get off the phone and continue to enjoy the show. And I like you, Brother Gaiman. Good conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. We have another caller. Call out your name and where you calling from.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, this is Ami. I'm calling from Texas.
Your name again?
I'm just calling Ami.
Ami. Go ahead, Ami.
I'm from Texas.
Okay.
I'm just calling to make a 2 point on the medicine thing and soup. I don't understand why people keep saying soup were in the wrong, soup were doing this, soup were doing that. From the beginning of the protest, people, these boys, whatever they call it, says CDC, COP, they went to the UL campus. It's like, you coming to my house. And because I don't want any trouble, I left you to my house and went somewhere else to go do what I wanted to do there. And then you follow me there, coming to attack me. Now, if Sue wanted to cause trouble, I don't know if people are thinking or not. You don't think it was going to start on the UL campus when they went and led them there to attack them on their own campus early in the morning? You can't be fighting there. And even then, Sue never threw any rock. There's a story, and even if Sue had right there, they threw rocks on those whatever COP then, they never did. They attacked them. The video is that we can all see it. Even if somebody had rocks in their hand, they never threw it. That's somebody showing me one video that Sue started throwing rocks at them. They followed them. After they attacked them on their campus and they left, and then they followed them to the who Sue had rocks for? What, the American ambassador? Is that who they were carrying rocks and stuff for? People need to stop saying, I know you can love our government, but when they do wrong, please say something. Just stop all the backing and something and stop. They were wrong. Then the instigator here is we are them. They're the one instigator. Those children that were in the street, they are not the police. If people are doing anything wrong, the so-called COP are not the police. So go stop them. That's number one. And number two, with the medicine thing. Everybody may not agree with how he talks or something, but when you push someone against the wall so much, they bounce back, and the way they bounce back, you can't control how they bounce back. Was elected. Like everybody else, they are Kara's great job, we are whatever. His job was not given to him as a favor. You cannot be harassing the man over and over. You want respect, you gotta get respect to get respect. You can't be harassing somebody, terrorizing his family, his children. He got his family out of the country because of that, going to their house, to breaking his property, doing everything. And then people don't see any of that without police or the security doing anything about it. But they're always looking at how you can respond, how you can. So that is being a hypocrite. If that was happening to any of that family or them, I don't think they would be caring about how somebody responds. You gotta look to both sides. The whole medicine thing, it depends on the government, the way the government carries it and protects its people. I know we've been through a civil war. People think, oh, it's because of the war. No. The way anytime people wasn't having medicine here, and nobody said her government was a super government. She just said she was wrong as well. But we are the worst. Nobody, you know, some people having military at this one, this one. It depends how the government carries some of the people. All that thing would disappear if we are caring for them and protecting everybody and not just see when you see these shit. Nobody will be carrying a medicine here and so and so. Nobody want to sit on there and die and somebody go, oh, condemn it. When you condemn it, I'll wake the person up. When you condemn it, I'll make the crime to be undone. No, nobody wants to die. So if you can't protect me, if things keep happening, look at all the attacks that have been carrying on them. I don't support any party. I support my country, Liberia. But look at all the attacks that have been going on the other people then. What report has ever come out a investigation and brought a perpetrator to justice? Nothing. So what do you expect?
Thank you, Amy.
And people said that because it's not happening to them, they make it look like, oh, I supporting Ria. If you supporting Ria, you think Ria is doing a great job. Take you and your grandchildren, your children, everybody, and move to the country and go live there. And don't be talking that because you're sitting out in America. Because people want to go home, they think that's stopping all that no foolishness and that's stopping us from going home. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Mr. Gilman, you got your hands full. You can unmute yourself, sir.
Yes, I love when they let me address the soup campus thing, how violent they are. First of all, 3 years ago, there was a young man by the name of Tapla. We usually call him Zolizo. Zolizo was invited at the University of Liberia campus.
Are you talking about a gentleman who was being accused of stealing fuel at FPRC?
Listen, gentlemen.
I'm asking a question. Are you talking about a gentleman who is accused of stealing fuel at FPRC?
Like you said, he was accused. That was a setup. That's fake. But let's stick to this. This man was invited to his alma mater to speak, and the Sioux people attacked him, and he escaped. They almost killed him. Zolizo. They said Zolizo will not speak on the campus.
He's not a student.
And they chased him out of there. He was a guest, a former student or graduate of university. Also, Honorable McGill and Tuel went to inspect the renovation of the University of Liberia, the roads that were built and the superstructure on the bathroom and the cafeteria. And the bomb rushed those guys and said they did not want them on campus. This is the violent group we are talking about here. SUP is a violent group. Actually, if I had any power, I would recommend to the University of Liberia and to the Republic of Liberia that this particular group is a domestic terrorist group.
Wow.
SUP is a domestic terrorist group. So let me go to Yeka Koluba. Someone said they are harassing Yeka Koluba. Yeka Koluba, I agree, he is mentally sick. The gentleman needs help. The gentleman definitely needs help. I saw him, he dressed his karate uniform, went on the floor and doing whatever he was doing. The other day, he took a bunch of banana and peanuts, and he took it over the night. The last time I saw him, he had jerseys and trophies. So this guy is not a serious candidate. So I wouldn't take him seriously. I would say he needs help. When we're talking about the army, 2,000, our army is an army of 2,000 is basically symbolic. Police force in the entire country is 3,000. And 3,000, they have 50 or so assigned to each county. So we need to ask the international community to beef up our security sector. That would be it. But other than that, I think the president is doing an amazing job keeping this country together. We have, on an island, we have 15,000 police officers from the international community. They're keeping the peace. In fact, President Weah is now being nominated. Don't be surprised for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Wow.
For keeping this country peaceful. For this year, there is no international 15,000 folks. There is no armed men walking around. There's no gun. In fact, our police don't even carry gun except the ERU and all of that. For President, we have to keep this nation together like this. I am telling you, this guy is a peace-loving man. He's a peaceful man. And President Weah, I take off my hat and I will be in Washington, D.C. December 13th to shake his hand and thank him.
Maybe we'll be in Washington in December.
Yeah, you can come there. I know you want to meet him. I'll make sure you see him.
Thank you, Mr. Gilman. Dennis, if you don't mind, let me give my final summation here as we try to close. There you go again, Mr. Goodman. God, me president, we are shaking hands. The last time you went to Liberia, I remember the struggle you went through and you didn't get to see him. This one, I hope it'll be easier for you to get that photo up, and then you pull it behind you, so when we come live, you can point at here. Nobel Peace Prize, my foot. This is the very president that people enter a home and stole his personal thing, and that's the man you're gonna get Nobel Peace Prize.
And the soup people stole his stuff.
Yeah, can you imagine that other lie you tell him? I mean, have you verified that Soup did that? We gotta get serious here, Mr. Gilman. But to the point, right? The students always get ahead of themselves too, and we must recognize that. In as much as we are for the truth. Zolizo, when he moved to Liberia, he went on AU campus. The students said, "No, this guy will not." The reason they said that at the time was Zolizo has made the inflammatory statement, threatening Liberians, insinuating that he would not hesitate to kill anybody in defense of President Weah. So many people came at him. Even at that, why I would have loved to see, should have been the student engaged in Zolizo's, because these children, Konya said, intellectual, the words that they use, I have not heard some of the words. All right. So engage Zolizo on the palaver and you put the issue. But they chased the man, and you are calling them domestic terrorists? Really? If you want to talk about domestic terrorists, Prince Johnson is one president. We are sits with him. These children are not domestic terrorists. These are victims of the crisis that took place in our country, and the perpetrators, as president, we are friends today, the likes of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and Prince Johnson. These are victims of the crisis. The perpetrators were not held accountable. The ripple effects are what we're talking about today. Charles Taylor's wife, who carries the name Joel Howard Taylor, is the one president we have saw in our nation to choose as his vice president. Does the guys even care about peace before you're talking about Nobel Peace Prize, Mr. Gamer? Do you sometimes think about these things before you speak? Or your love for President Weah has blinded you that we have a republic here to protect, and we have citizens who we have to turn the country over to. We need to prepare them. Dennis says something that I agree with. I'll close with you quickly. When President Weah announced this free tuition on the campus, I watched the video in the U.S. auditorium. Look, the noise was electric. I mean, what kind of poor child will not want to go to school and not worry about tuition? What are these children issues that they are advocating for? You said that they are about 15. You said 221. Let's say they probably are 50. The CDC government that control the military and police afraid of 50 students, and he got to use other people to brutalize them. These are hungry children. This guy cannot sustain a protest for 5 days. I know us Liberians. They don't even have food to eat. And you are chasing them in every rabbit hole to give yourself bad name. This is the CDC bringing noise on itself. And this thing that the student wishing President Weah will insinuating or be wishing him death is also unfortunate. The students must be the leaders they want to be tomorrow. They must be those leaders now as they are student leaders. In our democracy, we can disagree fiercely, but to wish another person evil, let alone the president of the republic, because he's terribly handling the country, is the wrong way to go. I understand their frustration, but that is not a ticket for you to utter those kind of words. Lastly, Yeke Koluba that we talk about. This man, baby food at the airport, was seized by security forces at the airport. This was the government doing. How you seize baby formula? Because of the harassment from this man. You agreed. Yeke Koluba needs help. I agree with you. He needs help mentally. He's unstable. He's being harassed. And there's anywhere he can get a help now. Maybe this country, the government can help him. Leave the man alone, let him make his noise. That's the best help you can give him. Maybe he will not think about this opposition or what's it called, opposition protection or unit, the OPU. I hope that OPU will take over the police. I just killing. The police has to do its work here. Thank you. I think we had a great show tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Patmore, your closing?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's always great to be here with you guys. So yes, let me start with Yeke. Okay. It's amazing how history continues to repeat itself. How people can take unknown people and how government can take unknown people and make them celebrity. Right now, Yeke is a celebrity. Okay, so you can call it mental illness, you can call it anything, any name you want to give it. But the government, the response of the government to Yeke Koluba has made him a star, a complete star in the country. Everywhere Yeke go, the crowd go. If a mic is placed before Yeke Koluba, everybody listens to what he has to say. Now he has come up and said this, that he's forming his protection force. And he is, whether you like it or not, Yeke is garnering the sympathy of the Liberian people. There was once upon a time people say, "Oh, Yeke man, Yeke can sit down." Now the people say, "You can't do that, man." George Weah was in the opposition for 12 years. George Weah never had to take his family out of the country for fear of their safety. Never. Now Yeke is garnering that too. Now people who would normally condemn Yeke are saying that the government has driven Yeke to this point. And, and even now, the government still hasn't put their act together to say how you address these issues. So you're continuing making a celebrity. Yeke now say he wants to be senator. Anybody who overlooks that, that's your funeral. But even beyond that, somebody spoke about the militancy. Yes, we came from civil war. The government has a responsibility. When CDC are addressing people and saying CDC militants, what do you expect the civilians to do? When George Weah became president, he put on purple suit. The whole country started wearing purple suit. When he changed from there, he started wearing sneakers with Kosu. Everybody started wearing sneakers with Kosu. People will go the way of their leader. You have a huge responsibility. Demilitarize the CDC, demilitarize the environment, provide jobs or the economic situation where young people can create businesses. How many you think they'll leave that to go protest? You think they will leave that to go dress and put beret on their head? But when you go to a CDC event where the president is at, everybody from the minister of state down to the petty man, everybody get beret. If the president is militarizing himself and his environment, people will respond in that manner. That's, we put terms out there and we don't fully understand. When we say heaven is the crown, heaven is the crown. And George Weah has to understand that. You can't just be dancing buka. There are important things. You got 5.3 million people under your watch that you are responsible for. I got 4 children, so now I can't sleep. And you got 5.3 million people, you are supposed to age. We're supposed to see the wear and tear on you. President, we are just getting younger by the day. But these are just a few of the things. I'm glad that Focus Onpoint is 2 years. And I look forward to another invigorating 2 years that we can discuss the issues of Liberia that make Liberia better, that make Liberians better. I know we are revving up for the political season. I know it's going to be fiery, and I'm going to be here, to seek the interest of the Liberian people, and hopefully we can have another awesome year. Mr. Ja, Mr. Sia, thank you guys, and thanks to our viewers, our listeners for staying in there with us. It's not always perfect, but we continue to strive to give you quality show. So we hope you are with us for another year. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Chief. Mr. Eastman.
Yes. All right. My message is directly to President Weah himself. President Weah, I hope you hear this message. You have always differentiated yourself. I remember we used to play Freetown ball in the yard, but that Freetown ball we used to play, when we were ready to go to play real game in the stadium, we had to change gear. You have always been able to, every stage of your life, you adjusted to the level. When you went from playing IE and barrel football, you went to Tonnerre, you adjusted to another level. You went to Monaco, you adjusted to another level. Paris Saint-Germain, each level you adjusted to until you went to the pinnacle. So adjustment is key, like you know more than anybody else. It's key to success. Now that you've gotten to power, there were certain tactics and techniques that were used that brought you to where you are today. But that's not the same techniques that would take you to the promised land. You have to adjust. You have to go to another level. This reaction to protest cannot be met with violence, or you become what we know before as a dictator. We've gotten rid of dictators. Charles Taylor, President Kayendo. Liberians will not take that. You need to adjust to another level. Do not take the advice of those who tell you, say, we will meet them with violence. They are not steering you in the direction. For Liberian people, if you give them incentive, if you give them empowerment that they can build their lives, more than roads, that they can earn their own living, that they can go to another level, you have given them more than roads. Empowerment is what makes a people progressive, and that's what we need to do. So, but what we need to do here is be very cautious of those who tell you to go down that road that leads to destruction. That is someone's inability. When you see people using violence, it's the inability to negotiate. It's the inability to bring somebody to understanding. It's the inability to positively respond. You have always risen above that. And now it's time to, especially with this election coming, it is time for you to rise above. Rise above like you've done before and show how that you actually can lead and bring the people, the Liberian people, the promises that they're looking for to you. Focus, it's just been a pride and privilege to be with y'all. And I hope for many, many more seasons to come that I can still be with y'all. Thanks again for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Our time has expired. Next week, we're going to be taking a small segment of our time to pay tribute to my co-founder, Mr. Edward Doe, the late Edward Doe. November is going to be a year since he passed. We're going to be checking on his family, his wife. I think she may want to say a word or two of gratitude to Focus on Liberia. We were fully represented at his funeral in Washington, D.C., and she appreciates that. We are here for a reason. The scriptures say where there is no vision, the people perish. A few years ago, the gentleman by the name of Dennis Jar came up with this idea about television, online, and media and information dissemination. This is the fruit of his labor. Those folks that are behind the scene, Mr. CA and Mr. Jar, we want to thank you. And I have been one of those who say, why should everybody have their own podcast where we can actually put our efforts together to make one work? It doesn't matter who owns it. It was your idea, you birthed this, and it is incumbent upon us to help to make sure it grows. So I'm asking my partners here, because charity begins at home, and we are asking our partners, our friends to donate. I think we should do it in-house. So I'm asking all of our partners here, when we go home tonight, please look at your budget, put FOL in your budget. If you're going to do it when your income tax can't do it annually, if it's $200, $500, when that money comes, just cut it and send it to FOL, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. If you want to put them in your budget for $20 a month, you can do that. Every month you send them a check, $20, and you don't have to feel it. So for this thing to continue, they need new equipment. They need to keep these things going. It takes money. We cannot expect Mr. Jai and CA to take their family's money, their children's money from their pocket to keep us on the air. It's not fair, so we have to invest. So, Mr. CEO and CA, we want to thank you for 2 years of hard work. We look forward to another year. Thank you very much, Mr. CEO. You can take us out.
Right. I didn't give my closing statement yet, so let me do that now.
Yes.
Thank you again, Onpoint. Anthony and I were just passing by and you told us to stop, and we had a beautiful show. But on the overall, I want to kind of follow what Jimmy started, is to talk directly to the president. President Weah needs to take charge, and lead. This idea that few folks around him, probably telling him that, oh, everything is good. Most presidents are in a bubble, and so they don't really know what's going on. But the buck start with him, so he should lead. Take charge. This thing of coming at the end of it, or as almost like everyone is against you, and so every time you come out, you must fight. That's wrong. When President Weah took over, even before he took over, this guy has the ability to for people to follow him. I think he can leverage that. He can use that within his tool bag. That if President Weah, he can rally the people. So if you rally them for a good cause, the whole country will be behind you. We saw that during the national tour, that he went in the interior of the country and people were excited to see him. He has done things to many people that other presidents did not do. Take, for instance, I was born in a little town where when the missionaries left, there was one light post standing on the mission. In the evening, we all dress up in our best suits just to sit under the pole, the light. President Weah will go to a countryside in Shasta and put on, light, solar panel light. To us who know about sustainability plan, all that, we may think that's little. But for someone who has never seen that in their lifetime, they think that is huge. And they're going to follow him because of that. So it is sad to see him go down this route where he's chasing everyone in the street because he believes they don't like him. You see kids, a young man like Christopher Susilis demonstrating you are sending thugs, or you are acquiescent of thugs beating me up. Mr. President, please stop that and start to lead. The buck stop with you. Talking about Mr. Honorable Yeke, what he's doing, I disagree with Anthony that Yeke has some mental issue. If he does, I believe a lot of people in our country have mental issues, and they have issues that they need to address. Take, for instance, the last time, or my own friend, he's been here several times, Honorable Gray, threatened to beat him in chambers. He said, if he calls the president again, we will beat him. We saw during Honor President Sully, we saw Solomon George. He said he was going to shit on Mary Broad. I mean, this kind of behavior, we continue to see them time after time. We see the militancy, we see everybody, especially the student population, every political leader, they have their own militant group, shouting and just screaming. You see that education, we need people, education, we need to educate the people. Speech making, how do you address public? What are you reading? We need to pay attention to our education. Education, the standard is dropping by the hour. I mean, I remember when we were in high school, I mean, we spoke better English than what the university students are speaking today. I mean, not all of them. You have some good ones, but on the average, the standard is declining, and we cannot sit by. Mr. President, the government of Liberia, we in the diaspora are here to help you. A lot of time, people have been on this show and tell me, and we have a show where people are willing to go to Liberia and teach free of charge without anything. Just give them the opportunity. We have young people as young as in their early 20s that are out of college that want an opportunity to go back and help. Open the doors. Nobody should deceive you that everybody here hate you or try to get you. This is wrong. Our country, if President Weah does not take charge to arrest the situation, put the brakes on, we are entering a crisis situation. We're going to see more of opposition protection unit. We're going to see more of that. We're going to see the militancy, all over the country. If nothing is done during the war, that happened. My own small town had their own defense force because it was everybody for themselves, God for us. So, Mr. President, please, education is key. We are seeing how things going. We did not try to address the mental health situation in the country. The Zogo situation, Mr. C had a show here. He said the state of the nation is Zogos. We see the issues coming up. Economic reality are harsh. I mean, the reality, it's so harsh that people that never begged before, they are now begging. So there's something that needs to be done if we must arrest what is going on. Again, it's bad. Soup is going to demonstrate. Another demonstration is going to come. Please don't be like President Doe. Every time there was little thing, he was so agitated. He wanted to fight. He wanted to shoot. And here we are today. Our country is 100 years behind. Something must be done. And President Weah, I lay this at your feet. Back to you, Mr. Jerome. This is your show. So, and thank you again for inviting me. Thank you for doing what you do, for taking leadership on Onpoint and leading the group to what I see has a successful 2 years. We also remember our brother Doe, who conceived this idea of Onpoint and came to us with a proposal. Here today, may his soul rest in peace. And we want to thank our viewers for always following us here at Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Continue to follow us tomorrow. The Secretary of the Student Unification Party will be right here on Focus on Liberia. He will be hosted by Mr. Anthony Sear on the Hour of Politics. You don't want to miss that. Until then, we're going to end with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." That's the message. Please. Good night and God bless you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home.